Hey everyone. Hey everyone. Happy Tuesday. I almost said happy Tuesday Eve. Happy Wednesday Eve. That's what we're doing. Yeah, that's what we're doing. You guys, thank you so much for joining. I am super excited to be able to have you on the Anna Alexis Podcast as we are getting all of our streaming stuff up and ready to go. All right, we're all here. Well, I want to take this time to welcome all of our brand new guests. For those of you that have never joined the Anna Alexis Podcast, we do this every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We are getting a chance to look into whether or not we're going to be doing that on a later date, whether we push that back or a later time by 6 or 6:30 to just give a chance for everyone to be able to hop on as they're getting off of work, as they're doing the commute, as they're doing all of those things. And one of the things I want to do tonight that I want to start doing moving forward is in the comments, whether you're listening to this live or on the replay, put in where you're calling in from, because we have people that are tuning into this podcast in every time zone in the United States. And I just think it would be really cool to see as we're kind of coming together. And kind of, it's not just this little small town space. This is kind of like the whole country, that we could join in and make a positive difference, starting with ourselves. And for our podcast, for those of you, again, that are joining for the very first time, this podcast is about and is designed around just listening to that whisper within. And if there are moments in time where you're kind of catching yourself like in your daydream about who you want to be, whether that's a business you want to start or something you want to pursue or a place you want to travel, whatever that is. And it is just taking that person who, like myself, may be lacking a little bit of clarity or direction or confidence in moving forward into that and saying, you know what, now is the time. Today I am worth it. I've been worth it all the other days, but today I'm going to do something about it. And we're going to go ahead and get started on our dream and also on this podcast. I'm really excited about this episode tonight because this episode is solely centered around a creation, and it is going to be a self-creation from yourself. And I love that because there are so many things, especially on social media, especially with expectations of parents, loved ones, ourselves, that kind of tell us who we need to be. But sometimes it's like who you need to be for other people. And we can get so lost in that. And we can kind of, if we build our life that way, it's kind of like pouring our soul through a strainer and we ain't got nothing left because we had poked all these little holes of expectations of other people and how we wanted to show up and how we were supposed to show up. So tonight it's about taking this whole soul and pouring it into a jar that ain't got no holes in it because it's designed for exactly how you want it to be. And tonight we're going to be talking about in episode 15 is your best self being uncovered or smothered? Because again, if we are identifying our self-worth in other people, in our relationships, in social media, in the world, on how we're supposed to show up because of that we're women, or whether we work or whether we don't, or our skin color, our religion, if those are the principal pieces that we define our best selves as, it is like putting the goodness of everything whole of who we are and just dumping that right through a strainer, and we're not keeping any of the good parts of us. And so I want to ask you, and if you want to take notes, if you want to draw, I'm a note heavy person. If I could show you my desk right now, it is like piles of notes, things I want to write about, things I have written about, things I want to do. So I'm always going to give little tidbits that you can write down and be able to use that moving forward. But tonight I want to talk about that best self and what does she look like? What is she like? What does she feel like? What does her home feel like? And really stepping into like, there's someone I want to be right now. She's in the future. And what can I do today to start embodying that? Because a lot of times who we want to be in our future seems so far in front of us that we are truly unable to think about like, what could I do today to bring that best self forward? Who is it I can show up as today to bring that best self forward? And when you get a chance tonight, or if you're listening to this on the replay, to get a chance to create who that is, again, what is that person like? What is my best self like? What does she look like? What does she feel like? What does her home feel like? Because so many times I think we often forget what's in our environment. If we walk into a place and we're like, I hate being here. Well, it's going to be real hard to feel nice and happy about, creating and making change. And so especially for the home one, not everyone can just pick up and leave. Like if I lived on a little coastal island where I could go to the ocean every day and eat beautiful fresh food that is locally grown and I didn't have any worries, it would be very easy for me to embody my best self there. And I think it would be that easy for pretty much anyone, but it's like, how can we embrace our homes in a way that make us feel we're at home, not just in a house? And creating spaces where when we show up in them, we're like, yeah, this is about me. And even if it's just simple things by photos or dream boards or trinkets, just things that mean something to you and that matter. On this front we used to do this a lot in our previous homes and in apartments because we were in such a confined living space when it was just Jeff, Cam, and I and the dogs, that Cam's birthday is in the fall and it would fall really close to like Thanksgiving, Christmas, his birthday. And we'd call it Marie Kondo. It's on Netflix, but there's a series called Tidying Up. And it's really about only keeping things in your life that bring you joy and being able to say like, oh, thank you. That served its purpose. I can let you go now. That no longer serves me. And we would do that with Cam because there was literally like Christmas and birthday was coming. There was nowhere where we were going to be able to put stuff. And it has been something that he has continued to do year after year. It's something that we do in our house. And we just call it we need to do a Marie Kondo, so that we can get things back to feeling like ourselves. Because sometimes we can just collect all of this stuff that doesn't even matter. And then it isn't aligning because you're just around all of these things, all of this clutter, and it can be distracting. Like for those of you that tuned in last week, we talked about cutting out the dead. I went live or over the weekend and just talking about like when you don't cut out the dead, the good can't fully grow within you. And so it's like, how do you go and do that? And so this is going to really be about bringing your best self into the present self and how to identify it in this episode. Because the thinnest line in the world, they say, is between fear and excitement, between possibility and worry, between risk and feeling like you're going for ultimate doom. And I'm going to share with you a little bit of what my best self feels like, but it's not something for me to project onto you. It is just a full creation of yourself. I just want to be here to give you some examples for you to be able to pull from. So when I was looking at what is my best self like, I was really trying to feel like, what do I feel like when I'm in my best self? And for me, I was coming up with words like peaceful, confidence. I feel in my element. I feel like there's a fire in my eyes, but I don't feel rushed. I feel very calm. Because a lot of times for me, if I'm in the fear-based version of that feeling, I can find myself starting to bite my cuticles. I get this very anxious energy and I feel like my heart is just kind of like about to explode. And I have these frantic little eyes that are just kind of looking at all of the things I have to get done. And it can be really smothering and very like suffocating. And it's like I'm burying myself under this self-doubt and overwhelm. And I need to take a breath. Because we are all capable of taking steps and saying like, I'm going to live in my best true self, or I'm going to live in my frantic, primal, chaotic, take it or leave it self. And it takes a lot of practice to be able to say like, no, I'm going to stand in my best self. This problem, this task, this obstacle is not going to overcome me. I am the overcomer. I'm not over here going to get tumbled on. I can do this. But what does that look like? Because if it's, again, if I'm in my anxious energy and I'm biting my cuticles and I'm kind of looking around and I can get tense, or my body language, like I'm not going to be able to sort through and see possibilities because all I'm trying to do is make it to the next moment. And so how do we take a breath and identify like, man, this isn't in my best self right now. How do I get back to this space of feeling this peaceful confidence, of seeing that calm, having the fire in my eyes, not having anything rushed? And a lot of times for me, what that is prioritizing my day and being able to set out the things that I need to do. Today, it's like Tuesdays are just they're my crazy days. And it's like I have so many things that are moving in so many little bubbles. It's like this little crime board of all this stuff that I've got to do that's all tying in together. And if I'm just looking at all of the things I have to get done, all of a sudden I'm just now stuck and I can't move and I'm so anxious. But what I decided to do was I started mapping out my time. I said, from this time to this time, I'm going to work on this. From this time to this time, I'm going to do this. From this time to this time, I'm going to eat lunch. I'm going to need to do this. And all of a sudden it was like, dang, I can breathe again because I now have a plan. I can step into my best self by setting myself up for success. And are we doing that? Or are we just kind of racing to the end of each day just to hop in bed to get ready to do the same day again? And how are we setting ourselves up to win? Because I would say in this season of my life, I'm the busiest I've ever been with being a brand new mom and working full time and doing this podcast and being a wife and still wanting to be an Anna in the midst of all of the things that I'm doing. How am I setting myself up to be able to go and do that in the most effective way? Because if I'm just surviving and reacting from each moment to the next, it's going to be really hard for me to be able to show up for myself and then my family and then other people and then for my future. So that was the tip that I've been using is I'm going to do this from this time and this to this time and just slow my life down, even though it's going so fast. Because in both examples, my heart and my mind, they're just racing, but there's a difference in feeling. Because one feels like when I'm in that calm space that there are limitless possibilities and I'm going to crush it. And then the other one feels like I'm racing against the clock, but I'm stuck on a hamster wheel that I'm never going to get off of. And even just talking about it, I'm like, oh gosh, getting tense. But how are you going to set yourself up for success? How are you going to find that difference of lining in and stepping into your best self versus your reactive kind of default self? The other thing I want to talk about is, what does your best self look like? And I know a lot of times that can be different depending on like what daydream we're in. And I don't know how it is for you as a woman, but for me, I can have like 6 realities kind of going on at once, whether that's like where I want to travel to or like conversations I want to revisit and have, or things I want my night to go, or planning ahead for the future. And when I think of my ultimate dream, and this has been the same for years and years and years, and when I was in network marketing, I got this beautiful opportunity to travel around the country and speak on stage and work with people on developing financial freedom. And that is one of the best things that I've ever done. It was one of my most favorite things I've ever done. And when I think of what she looks like, what my best self looks like, it's this snapshot of a moment of this future self of me speaking on stage. And I have this like glorious flowing long curly hair. So I'm probably going to need to get a weave because your sister's hair just doesn't move like that. But I'm fit and I'm curvy and I'm in this super cute all black outfit with a mic in my hand, and I'm walking people through making these decisions that will be the last time they do that. And it's like I'm working with them on like, today is the day we're going to start the rest of our lives, and that we are entitled to create a beautiful, happy whole life. And I'm walking these people through these incredible breakthrough moments, and of them being able to say like, I can do this. I can do this, and walking them towards this belief in themselves. And it's like, what can I do today to embody the future and the version that I want to see down the road? Because every day you can't be going out looking like that. I mean, I guess you can, and people do. I'm not that person. I think I put makeup on 3 times this whole year, and it is September. My husband will attest. That is the truth. But it's like, how would that version of me be showing up in the world every day? Because that version of me, she doesn't seem too humdrum. She seems confident and powerful and excited and solution driven and on it. And so on the days where I'm not feeling super on it, and it's different, like when you're sick or you're not feeling well or you're not just feeling yourself and you need to have a day where you're just like, I'm not doing this right now. That's okay. But when we start feeling that way day after day after day after day, and we're in kind of this humdrum hopelessness, what are we going to do? I want you to think about that version of yourself in the future, you at your best self, and think, what would she be doing right now in this moment? Because when I think about what that version of me is doing in that moment, when I'm looking at me on the days where I'm super overwhelmed and I just feel like, man, did I take on too much? Am I going to have to let something go? Am I just a straight idiot for thinking that I could do all of these things? I think of her, and she's doing this. She's going, you're not talking to yourself like that. We're not doing this right now. You get up off that ground and you keep going. We're not staying down there doing woe is me, because everybody you love sees that you're so busy, and they will absolutely understand if you don't get up and move because you got a lot going on. But me, I'm not giving you that grace. You can do this. You can figure it out. You are a warrior. Get up, get going. There are so many people that you need to touch and lives that you can change. Start moving, because everybody's got a lot going on. And if you can figure this out, you're going to help so many people. That's what my best self would be saying to me. Because everybody I love, if I show them all the things I'm doing, they're like, yeah, girl, I totally get it. If you need to take a break, if you need to set that down, if you need to give something up. But the best part of me knows that that's not an option. And I need to keep going. I also can really start in terms of like embodying that physical part of myself, as it's like, cool, I'm not going to start wearing makeup for the sole reason I don't like taking it off. It's just too much time. It just seems like a waste of time to have to take it off every night. It's just a lot. But I can get a lot better about putting effort into myself. I kind of get dressed and I look in the mirror and I'm like, okay, my hair doesn't look too bad. And I'm like, nah, this will do. I do a lot of this will do in the attitude of physical self. This will do. But it's like, how could I start by wearing, little cute earrings? I could invest in cute shirts. I could start by making sure that I'm wearing my engagement ring with my wedding band because I freaking love it. It's one of my favorite things I have and own, period. It makes me feel on top of the world because it's so pretty. Because I picked it out. It's so pretty. But getting things where it's like embodying the woman of my future that I strive to be, so I can start showing up for that way in the present. When I ask myself, how does my best self feel? A lot of that goes back to that she's still. There's a calmness there. There's a clarity. She's clear. There's confidence. There's this happiness, but there's also this joy of like, I don't have to be anybody but myself. And I just have to be myself to the best of my abilities and how I want to show up in love and light and giving and humor and connection. And that's what I need to focus on doing. When I think about what home feels like, and this has been because we lived in a lot of places, and I've lived in a lot of places up until we've been in this home for 3 years. But it's this place of creation that has to go beyond the actual walls that you're looking at. Because for me, what I've always tried to do in our home, whether it was with my family or when I lived by myself or when I had my roommate Hannah, is that I wanted home to feel like this sigh of relief, kind of like a big hug for my soul to be able to walk around in. I'm going to say that again. It's just kind of like this nice hug that you can kind of like walk around. And that's what home feels like to me. And how I do that is I have collages that are up, and my poor husband, there were times I remember at our other place, we had to take our collage down, this big collage that I was building, that I had built. And then we painted, and he was ready to put it up the way that it was, because that would make like the most sense. And I'm like, oh no, we got to create a new one. And he's like, oh my God, a new one, and it's like, as right now, I've been looking at one of our collages we have in the living room, and I'm like, it's getting a little time. And I know my husband, I swear there are times he probably just wants to like blindfold me, like, stop looking at the walls, lady. Because I'll be like, this is what it's going to look like. And then he'll go ahead and he'll create that. The other thing that feels like home to me is we got dog toys all up in this house. I probably got 7 of them on the floor of my bedroom. I'm looking at one right now. I'm actually now looking at 3 right now, 4 upon further review just in here. They're kind of all over our house. But to me, that's a sign that our dogs are happy and they're healthy and that they are living. And I don't go out of my way to pick up their toys because I want them to keep playing. I even look at like our bathtub in our master bedroom has all of these little toys for Jordan. They're like all these little like Arctic puffins and seals and bears. And did I put them back in the bin? No, I did not. It is like decorations for a life that I'm currently living. And I know some of you are about to just have an aneurysm thinking about that. But there is a part of me that loves to see our life being lived in motion and not like a model home. And again, If that's not in your best self alignment, I totally get it. That's 100% fine. I'm just telling you that, if you're looking at Better Home and Garden magazine and thinking your home needs to look like no one's ever lived in it, because I lived that way for such a long time. I felt like for my home to be like worthy, it had to look like nobody had ever lived in it. And when I look back at that version of myself, I'm like, was I living, or was I just a hollow self, just like my freaking house? And so if you got a little bit of clutter, girl, that's okay. You got a home that is lived in and people that are happy, and that's where we need to be focusing on. I even look by some of my chairs, just like little stacks of baby books over here and over here. Home for me looks like, now that the sun is not out all godforsaken day and it's not just hot as the devil, it's our friends, talking story with them outside. It's sitting in lawn chairs and being out there with them and finding what that means to you in your own space and how to bring that about. And seeing what is your area of focus going to be for tomorrow, this week, this month, the end of this year. What is the area you want to focus on? Is it how you're showing up in the world? Is it how you feel? Is it how you think? Is it how you feel in your home? What are the things that you want to start diving into to where you can start saying, my best self is today? It's not somewhere in front of me where I'm never going to get, because I'm not actually doing anything to get to her. It's someone that I'm embodying today, because if I can show up to the best of my ability as her today, there is no freaking doubt that I will be that future self that I am seeing. There are two other points that I want to talk about. And one of them is, do not create your best self reliant on the approval of other people. And I want to say that again, because that gets so overlooked as we live in kind of like this social media society of comparison, is that your best self, create a version of that is not reliant on the approval of any one person, any self other than yourself. Because the other people are going to benefit from your light, but if it's not coming from who you truly are, you're ultimately going to be losing it. You're not going to get to keep it. You have to be the essence of who you are at your best self right now. And it's so easy to be able to say like, oh, I got to do this for my kids. I got to show up for my mom. I got to do this for my spouse, which there are things you have to do. I totally get it. I am a brand new mom and I'm married. There are so many endless things, so many thankless, endless things, especially as women, like so many. But if you're not finding, what's up, Brad? What's up, Brad? If you're not finding that space within yourself to be able to say, where can I do this? Because I want to do this. Because if you can do that and have it stem from your own source, it's never going to go away, because it's going to be for who exactly you are. The other thing I want you to ask yourself is just to take a moment to see, how am I showing up? How am I looking? How am I feeling? What's in my surroundings? Am I in my best self, or am I smothering her with what's urgent and not important? Am I identifying? How do I look? How do I feel? How am I thinking? What's in my surroundings? And is this aligning with my best self? Or am I pretty much just smothering her? Because we have so many things that we have to do during the day that feel like we have to, and like they're going to end if we don't, like the world's going to end if we don't. But if we're not taking that time to give ourselves that value, to see ourselves in that best light, then we are literally just going to be living on the reruns of the past. And all our present's going to be is the rerun of the past. So all our future is going to be is the reruns of our past, on how we think and how we feel and everything about us. So take a chance on you. And again, it's also giving yourself grace. Every day is different. I certainly have a multitude of days where I'm like, I'm not feeling this. I'm not doing it. I don't want to do it. I don't feel like doing it. I don't feel like moving. And whether you take an hour or a couple hours, or if you need a full day to give yourself that rest, because sometimes that's exactly what we need. But there are other days where I can catch myself for myself. Like if I start my day eating those little truffle things, chocolate truffle things, I already know that I'm feeling anxious. It's somehow like my go-to to like control something that's out of my control if I'm feeling anxious. If I'm feeling my happy, healthy, whole best self, I'm not making those choices. I'm like, oh, I could go make that. I can make that smoothie I really loved with the fresh blueberries and pineapple and the spinach leaves, and I can fuel myself and I can keep myself going. And I can make decisions out of love instead of just being stuck in that weird survival anxious brain that I can find myself in. And again, that's not showing up full makeup face, being out there conquering the world, unless that's the essence of who you are. Again, like I said, I've worn makeup 3 times this year. And if you think that to be a beautiful woman, you have to put on a face every single day that is not your face, I'm telling you right now, that is a freaking goddamn lie. It is a lie. Because some of you girls, I love you so much, but you take your face off and I don't even know who you are. I don't recognize you. But if that's a part of your best self and who you want to be, keep going. If you don't like that process, if you feel yucky, if you wish that somebody would just see you just as you are and say, hey, you look good like that, start making a change. I'm here to support you. I'm here for you to be happy. I'm here to have conversations around helping you be happy, healthy, whole, helping you be at peace with the person that you are and the person that you're becoming, and making peace with the person that you have been. I remember I literally had mascara for years. I think I had mascara from college that I was like 25 years old, and they're like, you cannot be keeping it that long. But I had it for that long because I was like, well, I just now hardly never use it. So it's like, I know that within myself, I need to give myself opportunities to kind of shine it up, especially in this season of like motherhood, because I'm not just raising a baby. I'm also raising a dream. And I'm married and I'm working and all of those things. So it's like, I can find that time to invest in myself, but you have to be asking yourself why you're doing that. And is that an embodiment of who you are or who you feel like you need to be for other people? The last thing I want to talk about is just because it feels like it's in your element doesn't mean it's in your alignment. And I'm going to say that a couple more times because there are times, especially for me, I can be kind of a sassy pants at times. And I'm very intelligent. I'm very well spoken. So and I'm also really in tune with how I feel about things. So there are very few chances where people, especially men, can kind of like pull one over on me because I'm already like, nah, I ain't doing that shit. I'm not doing that. And so I want to say this again of like, sometimes you can be in your element and you can feel in your element, but it's not who you truly are. It's not in alignment with who you are. One of the things that I'm going to be talking a lot about through the end of 2024 is that alignment is the new fulfillment. It's not hustle. It's not grind. It's not ego. Alignment and fulfillment. They are going to go hand in hand. And I want to say that because there are times and places where you can find yourself where you're there and you're having a great time, but it's not your best self that is coming through. So about 1.5 years ago, I found myself at this like after party event, and there was this like, not a multitude, but you get 1 or 2 of these guys and they're just freaking everywhere. But it was just like this machismo men, and kind of, you can just see these women like fawning over this like successful looking man with money, and they're doing all the talking and they're in control. And I will, on a side note, when I look at some of the things, some of my girlfriends, if they're complaining about their man, I'm always like, cool, leave him. Let him go. Like, don't tell me all these things that are going wrong and then go back and stay with him for 5 years. I'll be the first person to tell you goodbye. Ain't none of the people that complain to me about their person has ever left their person. But I'm not going to be that consoling friend in terms of like, whether you're unhappy. But the other thing is that this person, and it's really hard to express, is it's like you'll get these hard stares and really this like abundance of reassurance that like, I'm not impressed with that type of ego or money or sarcasm or stature. And I have no problem just letting you know that. And I think as women, we're taught societally how we should be impressed by things of that nature, and why things of those natures are things we need to gravitate towards, whether that's the status or this money of financial stability or whatever it is. And just because you can doesn't mean it's in alignment with who you are. And I say that to say that when you find yourself in those situations, I was finding myself really jacked up by this, like, no, I'm shutting that down. I'm shutting that down. I'm shutting this down. And I had to take a step back where I was like, dang, in my own ego, I'm creating a fear that I'm going to show that I cannot be controlled and I cannot be subdued. And even though I was having this really great time, I realized that's not in alignment with who I am anymore. That's not in alignment with my best self. When I look at my future self and who I want to create and who I want to be and who I want to become, what would she be doing? Would she be bothering herself with things like that? No, she would not. And so I want to leave you with a couple things to say that your best self is in a place and with people where you feel like there is a steadiness, there is a calm, there is this like controlled fire burning where you feel that you are fully seen, heard, valued, and you're cherished, and you feel alive. And it's not just this adrenaline rush from ego or whatever it is that is kind of pulling you away. Because what we can do as women, especially when we get those spikes of like adrenaline and like, oh, I'm going to do that. And we're stuck in our own ego, especially this masculine ego of like hustle, grind, go, go, go. It can be, and then we tie that to a story that we tell ourselves over and over again. We can find ourselves in a life that was not meant for us. And that your best self will never feel like, it'll feel exciting, but it'll never feel like this emptiness or finding it in ego. And Cody, that's so true. Ego can be so destructive, and it absolutely is. And one of the things that I've been telling myself over and over again this week, especially, is it says, the world is a buffet. And if you're only eating from that, you'll never be full. Because alignment is the new fulfillment. If you're looking at the world to fill you up and to give you the things that you're going to need, girl, it ain't there. All you're going to do is try to fit into someone else's box that they made for you. And I will tell you, it's not a big box. I forget what the exact quote is, but it was the essence of like, if you don't plan your life, someone else will plan it for you. And let me tell you, they don't have much planned for you. So as you're creating your best self, I really urge you to go ahead and find those things of who do I want to feel? How do I want to feel? Who do I want to be? What do I want my home to feel like so that when I walk into it, I'm feeling like my absolute best self? Because this pursuit of your best self, it's like an adventure where you are uncovering and discovering, and you're not following the hype. You uncovering yourself should not look like you looking like every other person. It should be like feeling like yourself and feeling at home within yourself and feeling this peace and this confidence with who you've come to be. And if that gets you feeling happy, then girl, that look looks so great on you. I want you to keep building you. I want you to keep building a fully custom version of you, because that's exactly what you deserve. And we're going to do it together. Have a great night.